Yesterday echoes. Remember, support us directly. Now, back to the video. The year is 1453. Constantinople, the last jewel of the Roman Empire, falls to the unstoppable armies of the Ottomans. The world gasps, Christian Europe trembles, trade routes collapse, and whispers spread that the end of Europe has begun. But here's the twist. What if this very moment, instead of destroying Europe, actually saved it? What if the rise of the Ottoman Empire unleashed the forces that pushed Europe into the Renaissance, the age of exploration and eventually global dominance? So, today, we're diving deep into the question. Did the Ottoman Empire save or destroy Europe? Stay with me, because the answer is far more complex and far more surprising than history textbooks ever tell you. When Mehmed II stormed Constantinople, the Christian world believed Europe was doomed. The Ottomans now stood at the gates of Europe, controlling the vital Bosporus Strait and cutting off traditional trade routes to Asia. For many Europeans, this was destruction in its purest form. The end of Byzantium, the loss of ancient knowledge, and the beginning of a relentless Muslim threat from the east. But history has a way of twisting tragedy into opportunity. With land routes to Asia blocked, Europeans turned to the seas. This single shock pushed men like Columbus and Vasco da Gama to set sail ushering in the age of discovery. Without the Ottomans, would Europe have been forced to sail across oceans? Or would it have remained content with overland trade? There's no denying the fear they inspired. For centuries, European leaders lived in constant terror of Ottoman expansion. The siege of Vienna in 1529 nearly brought Ottoman banners into the heart of Central Europe. Across the continent, the Turkish threat was used as both a rallying cry and a political weapon. For many Europeans, the Ottomans represented destruction armies sweeping through the Balkans, Christian kingdoms collapsing, and entire populations living under Ottoman rule. The empire became the symbol of Europe's greatest enemy. And yet, the story isn't so simple, because in their attempt to contain the Ottomans, Europeans began something extraordinary. They united. Think about it. Before the Ottoman rise, Europe was fractured, torn apart by endless wars between kingdoms and empires. But when the Turkish threat loomed, suddenly rivals found common cause. The Habsburgs, the Venetians, the Poles, even the Russians, nations that often despised each other, were forced to cooperate. The Ottomans, ironically, gave Europe something it had never truly possessed before: a shared identity. To be European began to mean resisting the Ottomans. In this way, the empire that was supposed to destroy Europe actually helped forge it. But the Ottoman impact wasn't only military. It was cultural. Through conquest and trade, Europe came into contact with Ottoman science, medicine, architecture, and art. Coffee. The drink that fuels modern life entered Europe through the Ottomans. So did advanced surgical techniques, astronomical tools, and even literary works translated from Arabic and Persian. And let's not forget, when Byzantine scholars fled Constantinople after 1453, they carried with them ancient Greek manuscripts, long forgotten in the West. These texts ignited the European Renaissance. Ironically, the destruction of Byzantium by the Ottomans helped spark Europe's cultural rebirth. Economically, the Ottomans were both destroyers and saviors. Their control of eastern trade routes strangled European merchants. Prices soared, shortages hit markets, and old ways of doing business collapsed. But this crisis forced Europeans to innovate. Banking systems expanded, joint stock companies were born, and maritime trade exploded. The very pressure created by Ottoman dominance became the fuel for Europe's economic transformation. In other words, Ottoman control didn't end European prosperity, it pushed it into a new, global dimension. Of course, the religious dimension can't be ignored. To many Europeans, the Ottomans were not just a political enemy, but an apocalyptic threat to Christianity itself. Popes called for crusades. Preachers spread fear, and kings rallied their people under banners of holy resistance. But here's the paradox. By defining themselves against the Ottomans, Europeans created a stronger religious and cultural identity. The Reformation, the Counter-Reformation, and eventually the rise of secular nationalism were all shaped, in part, by centuries of confrontation with the empire. The enemy at the gates gave Europe the fire to reinvent itself. We also can't forget the military side. Fighting the Ottomans forced Europeans to adapt. New fortifications, gunpowder tactics, and naval strategies were all sharpened in battles against the empire. From the walls of Vienna to the seas of Lepanto, the Ottomans pushed Europe to modernize its armies faster than it might have otherwise. Every clash was a lesson, every defeat a catalyst. In a strange way, Ottoman might forged European steel. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. As the Ottomans began to decline in the 17th and 18th centuries, Europe surged ahead. Industrial revolutions, scientific breakthroughs, and global empires, all of these flourished in the space the Ottomans unintentionally created. Had the empire remained strong, Europe might never have expanded so far, so fast. But by weakening just as Europe was strengthening, the Ottomans opened the door to European world domination. So, did the Ottoman Empire save or destroy Europe? The truth is, both. They destroyed Constantinople, Christian kingdoms, and countless lives, but they also forced Europe to unite, innovate, and expand. They were the hammer that tested Europe's steel, and in that test, Europe became unbreakable. Without the Ottomans, Europe might never have become Europe as we know it today. So perhaps the question isn't whether the Ottomans saved or destroyed Europe. The question is, would Europe have risen at all without them? Were they the villains of history or the hidden architects of Europe's triumph? History, after all, is full of ironies, and maybe the greatest irony of all is this. The empire once feared as Europe's destroyer may have been its greatest teacher. If you've made it this far, chances are you're as fascinated by history's complexities as I am. So here's a challenge for you. In the comments section below, I want to hear your perspective. Which side of history do you think tipped the scales more? Do you believe the Ottoman Empire ultimately saved Europe or destroyed it? Your answers will shape our understanding of this video, and I'm eager to see how our community interprets these historical events. Before we part ways, I want to invite you to join our journey. Your support allows us to keep bringing these rich, engaging narratives to life and ensures that history remains accessible and exciting for everyone. Visit our page and choose the tier that suits you best. As a token of our appreciation, every supporter will receive exclusive access to our private server. It's a fantastic place to discuss history, share your perspectives, and connect with fellow enthusiasts like yourself. Simply search for the link in the description below to find out more. Thank you for being an integral part of the Yesterday Echoes family. Together, we're shaping the future of historical storytelling. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and subscribe for more captivating historical tales. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the echoes of yesterday. Now let's move on to our final sponsor, Brilliant. Have you ever looked up at the stars and wondered about the vastness of the universe or pondered the complexities of artificial intelligence? Brilliant has a course for that. Their interactive courses make learning STEM subjects like math and science incredibly engaging and accessible, which means you can learn complex topics by simply spending a few minutes on them each day. That's one of the reasons I love Brilliant. Another reason is their unique approach to teaching. Instead of lecturing at you, Brilliant asks you questions, challenges you to solve problems, and guides you through step-by-step explanations, making the learning process fun and effective. Learning doesn't need to be a chore. It can be a source of joy and empowerment. Thanks for joining us on this journey through time and knowledge.